welcome to Radio Radar's E3 Spectacular, etc., day
Late
one.
night.
It's 12:14 a.m. I'm Hollander Cooper. Here with me is
Henry Gilbert.
Ashley Reed.
Ryan Telgenik.
Sophia Tong.
and we're going to run through all the stuff that happened today.
All the stuff.
And then we're going to go to sleep. But we're too excited to sleep. We couldn't just skip this. We would be I'd be flopping around in bed like a kid getting ready for a vacation or the first day of school.
Or like Christmas.
Or I'm Jewish, man. Why would you bring that up?
Oh.
The
Or
first
Hanukkah.
day of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
It's been a very eventful day. Some crazy things got announced, some things we didn't expect, some things we did. Our predictions, which we're considering doing our podcast on Friday, might just be us going through our 99 predictions and referencing how we did. So far, we're very wrong. And we're doing a video podcast. Hi, video.
Oh, right. Say hi to the
That'll be
camera.
on YouTube. You get to see us in our hotel room.
Yeah.
This big
Sweet
hand.
dick.
here.
Giant hand in the middle of our table.
So here's the
Where's
thing:
that
we got to
from?
high five this every time somebody says something cool.
Okay, this will
You
be the
guys-
last time anybody ever high fives this hand.
So I got to
Sophie-
high five it just once. No,
And there's
Sophia,
a
you don't
beer.
have these in your room?
No, it's not in my
we have,
room.
We have one of these in our room too.
That's
so.
a very weird way to
it's a
hold
great
a
hand.
beer.
It's
Or
gonna
I
be
also
maybe
want
there
to
is,
know
maybe
how
there
much did they actually spend? Because this is a heavy duty.
It's just a
hand.
really heavy.
I guess that this
metal
would, This
hand.
was more than
It's
$100.
heavy-handed, I would say.
This hand.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
High five for that joke. So let's jump in. We're going to do chronologically. If you haven't checked out the press conferences and you want to see an article explaining what you missed, GamesRadar has an article for every press conference that has a full rundown of everything. We're just going to be going through that because A, it's the only notes we have, and B, 9 a.m. was a long time ago,
It was,
or 10
yeah.
a.m. or whenever it was. So we don't really remember everything.
9:30, yeah.
Feels
Like,
like a different planet.
Yeah, so let's jump into Microsoft's press conference, which started with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which genuinely looks visually much better than Ghosts. It looks
Yeah,
like a huge
yeah.
step
This
forward.
is the most excited I've been for a Call of Duty game in a while. So I've actually, I think Treyarch is now the A team for Call
That
of
was
Duty
Sledgehammer.
developers.
This was Sledgehammer.
I know, but I'm saying what I mean is I really liked Black Ops 2.
Right.
And I think that game did a really good job of showcasing some of the directions Call of Duty could branch off into while still being a lot of what people like about that game, about that franchise. Ghosts, for me, it's just so underwhelming.
I liked
I
Ghosts
just
by
could
the
not
end,
care.
but so
Yeah.
far this game looks great. So they showed off the visuals.
Yeah.
It was very Ghosts looked like an upscaled last gen game. This looks like a next gen cool particle effects, really good character models, huge locations. It feels like I was worried that they were going to take another year or two to make that full jump, but Sledgehammer looks like they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, full disclosure, I do not like Call of Duty at all. I don't ever play any of them, sorry. But this one I was actually like, okay.
And they didn't even show Kevin Spacey.
Call of
But
Duty.
the funny thing is that talking to Zach all day, and he says only 10% of people actually make it through the campaign in Call of Duty, and they spend so much time reviewing
Yeah.
single player and talking about it. And it's like most people don't care.
Thing is, I am one of those 10%. I play for the single player.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
me too.
play a good 50 hours of multiplayer, but I first, before I jump into that lengthy sloppy buffet, I want to have the nice parfait that is
The 3-hour single
the
player
3-hour
Explosions.
parfait. Yeah.
And it looks
I'm sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it looks like it's got a lot to offer, just that first bit.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey.
Well,
Some dismemberment.
let's talk about it real quick too. Some of the cool things they are. I mean, first of all, I'm really excited just about the setting in general. Like, okay, near future, 50 years from now, what could we conceivably see? And you get
Booster
the sense
packs.
maybe all this stuff could be what
Spider-Man's.
They still look like prototype-ish exosuits, that they're all wearing those little exoskeletons. But it's like, but when you look at the military videos now of things that they're prototyping and testing, it's like, yeah, that doesn't seem very far off compared to what they're testing now.
Yeah, it looks super cool. And I think I'm seeing it. Am I seeing it? I think I'm seeing it
We're seeing it
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
So we'll be talking about it more on tomorrow's podcast. The next thing that was announced, Forza Horizon 2 gets a release date, which is September 30th.
Oh boy.
this year.
This year, and Evolve gets a new creature. I actually played that
The
new
tentacle
creature.
guy?
Yeah. So he's
Oh, how was
his
he?
name's Kraken. So Goliath, the one they revealed that when the game got announced, is basically they've described him as a King Kong meets Godzilla, and that's pretty accurate. He's a big hulking Goliath that breathes fire and throws rock and can jump really far. The new character, Kraken, is basically like an electronic Cthulhu. Like he can actually fly. Where like with Goliath, you like kind of look where you want to jump, and he leaps in that direction. This guy, you hit A, and he just jumps into the sky and starts flying, and then you can like full on fly in any direction.
That's awesome.
Like you can only do it for so long before he kind of gets tired and you have to land, but you can still just like Goliath, you were leaping away. This guy, you're just like peace out, and you just kind of fly away. And his abilities are really cool. One is just like an electronic pulse that just hurts everyone around you. One is a laser that just comes from the sky and hits down. One is a vortex where he kind of blows like a whirlwind at enemies, and then he can leave little electronic mines. He plays a lot differently, and he was I played as him, and I didn't bother playing as the hunters because
it's fine.
no
Why
one
would
got
you
time
bother?
for that.
I mean,
the
we've
hunters
seen
were
that.
We've
There
seen
were
the
new hunters and everything,
but they still probably play very similarly.
Yeah.
Do they have a new set of hunters?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't even.
But you can't.
I couldn't tell because I was too busy devouring them.
Yeah, but it does make me really excited just to see what other monsters they'll have.
Yeah.
That they'll reveal. In the
That they're so
future.
different.
I think it is such a cool concept that I think I'll have a problem with it just because like it is you have to play your class, and I'm not very good at like playing the class and being a team player in like shooters. Like,
Oh, Harry.
I usually need a lot
I
more
don't get
direction.
along
Hank
with
doesn't play by the
people.
rules.
I love team shooters.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. It definitely feels like a good step from Left 4 Dead towards a next gen
Plus,
experience.
it just looks really good.
It does
Yeah.
looks really good. Next up, and we can talk about it now and skip talking about it at the other two press conferences. It was at Assassin's Creed Unity.
Ooh, that was a
4-player
sexy trailer.
co-op.
Man.
In the beginning of the
demo.
trailer, he climbs that giant like mound of like wheelbarrows and stuff from where half of Les Mis takes place.
The barricade, yeah.
And they show off 4-player co-op. You wrote a lot about it, so you dug into it and learned stuff that none of us saw.
A couple things, yeah. Like I learned just from kind of their text documents what the main character's kind of like, his name, why he joined the Assassins. He's got kind of an Edward feel
So
to him.
what is he? What is his shtick?
It was pretty short. It was basically that he somehow feels responsible for the death of his adoptive father, and so
Sounds
he
about right.
joins the Assassins to seek redemption and take out the forces that are really behind the revolution. And just from looking at it, kind of makes it
The
look.
Templars.
And it kind of makes it look like the Templars are actually on both sides, kind of like how they swung World War I, but World War I wasn't actually a setting, so it'll be the first time they've actually done that as
Oh, so
a
it's like they
setting,
basically
so-
wanted to create a war, so they joined both sides and pushed them to the brink, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
pretty
That's cool.
much.
That's a way we've never seen Assassin's Creed, and wow, did it look good? Speaking
Yes.
of seeing
Oh my
it,
God.
they
co-op.
that first video that showed off like months ago. It was like, look how many things are on screen, and we were all like, no, like this is bullshit.
Well, I think
and they
what-
showed it, and wow,
I think one thing
They're-
that really surprised all of us were the sheer amount of characters that were on the screen at
Of
any time. It's
detailed.
like, okay, now you're in a city full of people, and you totally feel that
like,
way.
and it's not just like
Exactly.
in Dead Island or Dead Rising. It's like, okay, there's 150 zombies that all look the same and aren't really detailed. These characters all looked like full rendered, crazy detailed characters. And I think our video guy Thomas, who's sitting behind the camera waving, said he's like, those actually look like crowds you can hide in instead of
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
4 monks kind of high-fiving and you trying to hide under them like you're under the Eiffel Tower. They're just like they seriously, it's like, wow, there's like 500 people. I can hide in that crowd.
And you'd really need to have, for like the French Revolution, you would have to have that. If like
Yeah.
you had like 5 piddly dudes walking around, it wouldn't feel like the French Revolution. So
and
they
that
picked
makes
the
me
perfect
wonder
setup.
too. That makes me wonder too. Like, what other settings have they purposely not explored yet because of that exact reason?
I
Like,
bet
we
you
need people on screen.
digging
for this
into
to
like
work.
World War I and World War II. Like they could do some really cool. Imagine, I know this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I want everyone to close your eyes and imagine like D-Day, except you're an assassin. Like you hit the beach and then all of a sudden everyone runs out and you just have like your blades and you're just running down the beach. I know it would be ridiculous,
No.
but man, would that be great.
And real, and real,
Also,
No.
You had nothing to climb over.
Yeah, you do. The
People
corpses of
and
all
bodies.
of
Aw,
the
you went
American
there.
and
That's messed up.
Canadian and
You
what?
went
There's
there.
a lot of
um,
people died on
people
the day.
tucking their organs back in.
also some really cool things that we
Parkour
saw
over that.
were like it looked like a one button press thing where like you would get a HUD overlay that would show points of interest instead of pulling up an entire map to find out where that stuff is.
Game changing
Amazing.
just because of how complicated things have gotten.
And one thing I was really freaking out about was like, oh my god, when they're dropping down, like the sense of gravity is totally there. Like you're so fast and the way they're swinging on all those beams and things, it's like, wow, that looks way more realistic, or what I imagine a forceful grab of
way more organic
swing would look.
I actually found out something pretty cool about that was because they actually changed the physics of how they were doing parkour. So you're not just moving on the horizontal plane, you're actually moving on the vertical plane too.
Good.
So that's great. Pretty awesome.
It just looked so good.
Yeah, and
even though 4 was like when playing 4 on next gen or on PS4 or Xbox One, it did feel like up to date, but this one looks like leagues, a league ahead of
one and a quarter
4
leagues. I wouldn't pluralize it. And also the 4-player co-op, which does look a lot like it looks a lot like we talked about in the podcast before. It does kind of look like what they did with Watch Dogs in that like you are joining people's games and having them join you, but it's not going to be like you're sitting in a lobby waiting. It looks very organic. At one point, it was just like, hey, do you want somebody to join in? All right, they're in.
Yeah, you just hover over like certain quest areas, and then you can see like who's playing like under your friends list, and you just join.
They revamped the questing system, and it looks all like a real open world game kind of. Like this looks to me like as big of a jump as from Assassin's Creed 1 to 2. Like they didn't really take things back to the drawing board because they didn't have to between 2 and 4. Like, they just kind of iterated. And this one, it feels like they're like, all right, what if we tore everything down and rebuilt it?
They just perfected all these, like, little things that you didn't even know were important. Like, you kind of just got over the little annoyances, and now they're gone. And it's like, oh, my God, that's so much better.
But the question remains, how many tailing missions are there?
I mean, there were a lot of... There were... It feels like if you look, there were just less of them in every game, including Watch Dogs. Like, there were some in Watch Dogs, but there weren't a ton of them. But... It's a good question.
Tailing missions in restricted zones with nowhere to hide.
Oh, good fun. There were some in Assassin's Creed 4 that were actually super fun, but there were some that were, most of them were, there was like some that there was like bushes everywhere, and it was really cool to just kill everyone. Mm-hmm. Next up, another game that they showed off that we actually got to play today, Sunset Overdrive.
Oh yeah, how was it?
It's all right.
Video game.
Yeah. So we only played we only played a really tiny chunk of it though. We got one round on one map of the Chaos 8-player Horde mode.
Yes.
Oh.
And it's if you've played a Horde mode of any game,
it's Horde mode.
It was pretty much Horde mode with more weapons, and you could do that thing that you do in Infamous where you ride on rails.
Yeah. So like one thing. So this is one thing I've been trying to talk a lot more about in my previews lately when games do it very well, and that is really capturing a good sense of mobility, because I'm realizing more and more like that is a very important part of games to me, is making sure that I feel like I'm able to move around as quickly as I need to get things done. And this game does a really good job of that. So like John mentioned, like you can just somehow grind with your shoes on rails, and it continually moves. Like a lot of times it's set up in squares or rectangles or circles or something where you don't really have to do much input aside from the initial activate the grind mode.
And I think while you're doing that, if you're looking towards an enemy, not directly at them, you'll see a little indicator showing that you'll hit them if you shoot. So you don't have to like aim and shoot while you do it. You can kind of just aim your cursor at enemies and your character will automatically hit them.
Yeah, so that part was really great. And I think the game is, I love its over the top kind of style.
Tone, yeah.
And all the weapons and everything are totally in line with that.
I had a gun that shot records.
Yeah, it reminded me of Revolution X, that Aerosmith game.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're shooting discs at people and they're like sticking into their bodies and they're sticking out.
Yeah, there was a giant monster. So it was basically just wave-based multiplayer. And honestly, like we both walked away. Like that was only okay. But I watched some people play other modes, and it looks like those modes are going to be a lot more fun. I think it's just that mode was like, it's a horde mode. It can only be so good because it didn't really revolutionize anything. But there was this giant hulking monster that we were all shooting and fighting at, and I shot a bunch of records into it and then jumped over him and changed, and then like fought him for a few more seconds and looked, and his side was just covered with records.
Yeah, it's really funny. And then there's guns too, like a grenade launcher that actually shoots teddy bears that are
have like C4 attached,
and there's like lots of goofy things like that. So those are all really fun to use.
Yeah, it looks cool, and we actually got a rundown from Ted Price. He's just like, hey, let me explain this game to you. He was just like hanging out and like grabbing people to talk to about the game with. But it's like the art style looks good. It controlled really well. What we were doing was boring.
Yes.
But the rest of the game looks like it won't be. I mean, it's boring. But like Horde mode's always just fun. It wasn't any
like
more
Horde
fun.
modes.
And from seeing other people play like the open world stuff, the navigation and momentum was so good that I think just running around the world is going to be super cool.
Yeah, I almost get the sense that this is sort of what they had envisioned for Fuse initially, and that now they're like, well, screw it. Obviously, that game didn't do well. Let's see what happens if we kind of stuck not only to our original plan, but let's take that a little further and make it a little more eccentric.
The trailer was great too.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
trailer
I
was
like
super
the trailer.
funny. You can check. It just makes
It's a fucking video game.
It's basically a Gearbox trailer. Like it wasn't an Insomniac trailer.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump through the next things pretty quick. Dead Rising 3 gets DLC that has a
That's
bunch
hilarious.
of like Street Fighter characters in it, and
I love
Good
that it was.
stuff.
I like
it was
its name.
Yeah, the Capcom making fun of its own naming convention.
Ultra Dead Rising 3 Super Plus Alpha Championship Edition. Greatest
that's
ever.
hilarious.
Dance Central Spotlight, which you played a little, right?
No, it
No.
was in. They were like in alpha when they were showing.
Okay,
it
yeah,
to
it's
us.
it's
It's Dance Central.
I ran
basically.
into Nick Chester, who's one of their community. Is he community or is he
PR.
like
He's
PR?
PR.
Who used to be from Destructo, and we chatted for a while. I'm like, so what's Dance Central on the Xbox One? He's like, people kept saying you guys should make Dance Central on the Xbox One, so we made Dance Central on the Xbox One. And it was like, that's what it is. It's like we made a really cool downloadable Dance Central. Everybody wanted it, so here's what it is.
That's one of the few games I can convince my girlfriend to play with me simultaneously when nobody's watching.
You can port
we'll play
over all
with
your
that
old
one.
songs.
Did
That's
you?
it.
In general about Microsoft, did you notice that they brought it up on Spike when we were watching the pre-shows and stuff that they didn't say Connect? I don't think
They said it like once.
They barely said Connect on the whole thing. Like Connect became a dirty word. In general, in their press conference, it was slightly conciliatory and just like they weren't saying like, hey, we screwed up, but they were saying like, we listen to gamers. We still want to keep hearing what you have to
just
That
say.
seemed to be
nothing
the
but show
theme for like
games.
all the
Which
press
was great.
conferences.
Yeah.
They
Maybe
needed
they've
that.
learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Just all
Finally.
games.
Games like Fable Legends, which
Meh.
we saw it a little bit today. I have no idea how it plays.
Yeah.
Visually, it's an Xbox One game. It looks next gen. It looks cool.
My favorite part that I'm looking forward to is actually playing as the villain, right? So it's like a 4-player co-op game where you guys all group up, and it seems sort of like a Gauntlet style hack and slash or whatever. But you can also play as the villain, which involves like a top-down view where you're setting traps, sort of like a tower defense against actual players. And so you're setting traps, you're spawning monsters to stop them. It's like
Okay.
that part would probably be really fun.
Yeah, it looks cool. And next thing they showed off was Project Spark, which looks like Project Spark always had, but it was capped off with Conquer, who I guess is
Yeah.
going to be a part of the game.
I saw people were pissed at that. I had people in my at replies on Twitter, a couple, and I also saw NeoGaf. It was just like they thought Conquer showing up was a fuck you to Conquer fans because they're like, Conquer basically says, "Oh, you're not going to give me a sequel? I guess I have to sneak into this." Then so people's response was like, "Oh, you won't give it a sequel? You're just taunting us." Or you're
Those are
making
the
us
same.
slip?"
Those are the same people that think anytime Mega Man shows up in a game, it's Capcom trolling them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
just
sure.
for sometimes it's just what you do.
I mean, do they think they were gonna get a sequel?
Yeah,
That game's never
Who's
gonna
living under
happen.
that fantasy?
no, they may get a new next gen remake, but that's it. Ori and the Blind Forest. How about
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Man.
That's
So
my
I got to
game of
play that.
show.
I got to play that today. I actually missed the trailer of it on the press conference because I was busy writing up something else that had happened. So I played it at the Microsoft event that John and I went to, and so I think it runs on the UbiArt framework engine.
You spent like an hour trying to
I'm
figure
like,
that out.
I swear this has to be on this engine.
It
'Cause if
looks
it's
like
not,
it.
The
if
only-
it's not, I don't know what the hell
Only
engine that
websites
is.
that confirm that it is.
Are in Spanish, so I'm just like I don't fucking know, but it does look like that engine. It's basically a Metroidvania game. You play as Ori, this little forest spirit or something, and your forest that you're in has been like decimated by darkness. It's almost like a Child of Light premise where it's like everything's very dark and gloomy now, and you have to restore the balance. And but the gameplay is really really fun. One thing I really liked is so you gain a little spirit friend early on that it does all your attacks for you, and so really you're just mashing a button and it hits whatever's closest. But the challenging part of combat is all the enemies use multiple projectile attacks, or they launch themselves at you, like they jump at you. And so it's very much about you dodging those while you're mashing this button.
Almost
kill
like a
them.
shmup, it sounds.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool. I was like, that's a very interesting way to approach that in these sorts of like 2D side-scroller games.
Yeah.
And you just gain new abilities as you go on. Like I got, in like the 20 minutes I played, I got the ability to wall climb so I could jump up walls and get higher.
Yeah.
So I very much think it's going to be a very great Metrovania game. Very, very charming kind of thing, and
I'm
I'm really looking
excited.
forward to it. Yeah.
Looks so
Yeah.
cute.
Sneaking on camera for a second.
Oh, just getting some buzz. So.
All right, getting some buzz. Halo: The Master Chief Collection. It's the thing that was rumored. It's all of the Halo games. It's all of the multiplayers too, and specifically online versions of all of them, including Halo 2's like
Yes.
untouched. They're like we know
Bugs
you
and
guys-
everything.
Yeah, like we are not changing anything.
They mention that so many times. It's like, seriously, nothing changed. Nothing changed.
100 something maps.
I also thought it was impressive too when they were like, and we even retouched some of the things in the earlier games. But if you don't like it, you can turn that off. Like it's
they
no big
showed
deal.
off. They said they went through like the 100 maps and chose like 20 or something to just like update to like Xbox One graphics, but they
Yeah.
left the other graphics the same.
Yeah.
It looks kind of cool, but also kind of silly.
And it
but
comes
They're
with
scared. They're terrified.
And it
Change
comes with
anything.
Halo 5 beta access.
yes,
too.
which
That's
is in
true.
December.
So yeah, you play Halo, you beat 1 through 4 of Halo, just mainline
Get
it
yourself
all for a
ready.
month, and then straight into the beta.
Sounds good to me. Limbo developers' next game, which they've been working on it like since Limbo apparently.
Yeah.
It looks almost like if Limbo
Like
and
color?
Papa
EO.
EO had like a super depressed baby, which their baby could only be depressed.
I'm bummed. This was another one I didn't actually get to see the
trailer.
for, so I'll have to check up on it later.
Yeah, it looks like a cool trailer,
I think it looks like Limbo 2. Like we were looking at, we're like, Limbo 2?
but it's like it's full 3D looking. Like it's still a
Yeah.
side scroller.
3D. And there's like a little
2.5D.
touch of color.
Yeah.
I could envision it as like another part of that same world that Limbo takes
Yeah.
place
That
in.
was the Phil Spencer T-shirt moment where he came out. He was wearing a Limbo
Yeah, he was wearing a
T-shirt
Limbo
when he
shirt.
presented
Like,
it.
Lara
Oh.
Croft and the Rise
so
of
excited
the
for
Tomb Raider.
this.
Oh,
but it's
man.
holiday 2015, which makes me so sad.
Well,
it's just
I
her
also
talking to
don't
a
think that's
psychiatrist
surprising.
that's like, bitch, you crazy. It's basically what he's saying in that thing. Because she's just like sitting there tapping her foot and going crazy.
Well, how could you not? Like,
I
imagine
know she's been
being
through
in that
some horrible
situation.
stuff.
Well, not only horrible things, but just being on like such the type of adventure that people would never believe you
Right.
that you
Yeah,
just
for real.
saw.
Like, listen, Shrink,
And
my friend was being taken over by a
Yeah.
witch, and I had to pull her off a pedestal and fight an ancient genie.
So yeah, there's no going back to just normal life after
No.
something like that. And that I think is such a cool setup because it makes so much sense why she would be constantly putting herself in
true.
these
So
situations.
now that she's she has become clinically insane after the adventure of Tomb Raider, then now she's like, I guess I only feel
raid
normal
tombs.
raiding tombs now, so I guess this is my life. Like,
Yeah.
And I kind of I appreciate because the transition in the first game, it was so quick. She was just like innocent girl to
I shot a
killing
guy.
machine. And
My favorite line in that is because I mean that's been a big controversial point, but I like when she kills a bunch of people and they're like, "That must have been so hard," and she's like, "It really wasn't." Like I
Yeah.
thought that was such a good way of dealing.
No, it was
with
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I do like that. I like how they're kind of bringing it back to that. It's like, yeah, she did turn into a killing machine and it messed her
Yeah,
up.
looks really cool, and I'm happy they're making it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I'm
I'm
very
glad.
excited.
Crystal Dynamics was talking like they might get shut down, or who knows what would
Yeah.
happen to them. But they're also making that it wasn't shown during Microsoft.
Lara
but
the
Croft
Temple
and the
of
Temple of
Osiris.
Osiris.
Yeah.
It's 4-player co-op.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Like
Guardian
Guardians
of
Light.
Light
Yeah.
Guardian of
sequel.
Light. Guardians of Light.
There was a Witcher trailer that looked good.
Look neat. I
Look
don't know
neat.
if there was really much new about it.
Phantom Dust.
Who saw that
What
coming?
the hell was that? Well, first off, it was crazy to see Ken Lobb out there, which for old school Nintendo fans like Ken Lobb, he's an evil defector to Microsoft. But no, that
Ken Lobb, best known for having the worst gun in GoldenEye named after him.
Well, yeah, so I got to know Ken Lobb by name as a kid. Like in 1996, they sent out these promotional videos for the N64. And so they have Ken Lobb, who was a Nintendo employee, like, here's what an analog stick was. And he was explaining an analog stick to you and the Nintendo controller. And so I always remember his name. But yeah, in the 2000 or so, he went to Microsoft. And that when he
Didn't
was.
he go over with Rare?
I think he was a transfer with Rare, yeah. And so when he said that he was going to bring back an old franchise and one he really liked, I was like, well, what Rare franchises are left that they have the rights to? And then it wasn't. It was Phantom Dust, a game nobody remembers from the original Xbox. And it's impossible to even talk about the original Xbox because a lot of people want to say, oh, on the Xbox. Are you guys saying the Xbox One? Or
Yeah,
what?
it's a weird thing. But then Hideki Kamiya's new game,
That was a shock.
Scalebound.
Scalebound.
did not see that coming at all.
No way,
Nope.
yeah. See,
and it looked
It was a weird
awesome.
yeah, it looked awesome.
It's them making DMC.
Yeah.
DMC and Monster.
In which you fight fucking dragons.
Yeah.
Which is like,
yeah.
and he wears the dragon armor he just summons. Like,
Yeah,
that's the
that
coolest
guy was
thing.
straight up Dante.
Yeah. He was Dante with short
Dante
hair. Because
with
at first
skills.
it's like, that kind of looks like Dante. And he's like, how you doing, buddy? And it's like, all right.
But Kamiya's
Pizza
a cool guy.
flying around.
It was weird that Kamiya seemed like nervous speaking English on stage because I follow him on Twitter and he tweets
very
really well in
vocal.
English. Yeah, he got a tweet. He retweeted a tweet right afterwards where somebody said like, "I don't want to pay $500 to play your next game. Why are you putting it on the Xbox One?" And he just like replied back like, "Deal with it."
Yeah. And
No,
then-
he said too
Which is
bad.
the
Yeah,
only,
too bad.
The only right answer, really.
And then they
funny.
ended their show. I mean, they showed some other things throughout, but they ended their show with a teaser for the new Crackdown. And importantly, so if you didn't play either of the Crackdown games,
I
Crackdown
did not.
1 was really cool. It was an open world. It was actually had a lot in common with, like, a lot of people said that Saints Row 4 was basically a spiritual successor. Like, it's an open world game where your character basically has superpowers. It was a cool art style. You're going around doing cool stuff. And then then the developer of that, Real Time Worlds, went
Yeah.
on to do APB.
Oof.
Which failed miserably.
And they handed Microsoft Game Studios, like a different developer. I don't remember even, was it
It was
just-
Ruffian Games.
Yeah, Ruffian Games, Crackdown 2, which was garbage.
That was one where they added zombies to it.
Yeah, they added zombies. It was a really rough game. And the big news is Crackdown is back with the original lead producer and lead developers.
Oh, good.
So
It's
no
the right
zombies.
people that-
That's always a good sign.
But yeah, time to give Crackdown another chance, I guess. But
Yeah, you
it's,
might as well.
I guess you may as well make. You got to make some.
Yeah. So, what did you guys think of Microsoft overall?
I actually thought it was really good. I think it was the exact sort of message that people wanted. They
Yeah,
didn't
just get to
spend
the
a
games.
second talking about anything but games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think they could have done a better job.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the only way they could have done a better job is just by having more big games.
Well, sure.
Theoretically.
But I mean, like, we know, like, yes, we know a new Gears is coming and all that, but
They teased
we also
it.
know that stuff is so far out. Like,
I guess my worry is more like they still don't have a big 2014 release.
Sunset
Well, we're not gonna-
Overdrive
we're not gonna
is
get it,
that
you know?
release. Like,
I don't
it's not- you just need to get used to the fact that Sunset Overdrive
Is
is
the
that
only
game.
release.
Like,
it's
that's-
that and it's the Master Chief Collection. That's what they're banking on.
That's
And
a-
so,
I
I
think
mean,
they're just-
Sony
I think
also doesn't really have a big
I think they're more
2014
banking on Assassin's Creed Unity and Far Cry. Like they're just like, listen,
Well,
we can't. Yeah, we're not bringing it this year.
Well, the third-party stuff is
They're
going to
just-
carry both Sony and Microsoft,
Yeah.
but neither one of them have much.
Well, we
left
didn't
in
talk about that
2014.
either. That they mentioned several times exclusive content or premiere content for it. Like, so they're banking on people going with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare first on Xbox One. Though I'm wondering if that will happen this year. But same with like Dragon Age Inquisition, Evolve. Like, they're trying to get people at least with exclusive DLC like that.
Yeah. Moving on to the next press conference, that was EA.
Yep.
They had donuts there.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Started
They didn't
off
have
with
donuts
Battlefront.
here.
Yeah.
Started off with
yeah.
Battlefront,
Now, when they did that cool thing where they're like, yeah, we went to all the original locations of the shooting and like
showing them in like the
and
cold.
they showed the side-by-side transformation of the real-life location into game, and there was that like little bar that went across to let you know this is the game version. And it's like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
that looks almost exactly like the real-world version.
Well, and you just hear that John Williams music, and it just pulls
Yeah.
you in immediately. It was also cool seeing like just the Stormtrooper helmet like they had rendered,
Yeah.
and
They basically they had in-engine footage that looked crazy good, showing off
know.
Endor, showing off Hoth, and they said they were going to find out more in spring of next year. But
which is not a release date. That's when you'll find out more
More.
about the
yeah,
game.
though I still expect to see that by the end of the year because
I think it'll be like a November 2015.
I bet you both Star Wars games are going to be end of next year because when those movies hit, people are going to be insatiable
Yeah.
looking for Star Wars content.
Yeah, probably.
Brilliant.
Or they could. I mean, it could be just an annual Star Wars release since it's annual Star Wars movies, annual Star
Yeah,
Wars.
they could
games.
have one a year.
But yeah, Dice isn't screwing it up. That's for sure.
Well,
Like,
we've
it's
always said
looking good.
too, like if there's one, or at least I've always felt this way. If there's one developer I would want to give Battlefront to, it's absolutely Dice.
There's no other developer that's like when EA got Star Wars, everyone was like, "Oh shit! Just imagine
Yeah.
if they gave Battlefront to the developer that makes Battlefield." Like
Aw.
it's when they announced Battlefront, it was like, "Oh, it's like the first one." It was like, "Oh, it's kind of like Battlefield with Star Wars."
Yeah.
Like it's everything came full circle. Next up, we got Dragon Age Inquisition, which just looked really cool. You can check out article on
Very
it.
exciting.
We saw some conceptual prototype work of Mass Effect.
There was a lot of
That we
conceptual prototype in that press
You might say
conference.
that it's one of the trends of E3 2014, which is in an article on GamesRadar.com. Hopefully, by the time this podcast posts, it's not going to be up by the time this podcast
It'll
posts.
be up at some point
Come back later. Tomorrow,
Later.
which is today,
in the future.
because it's 12:44.
That reel of stuff for Mass Effect was so weird because it seemed like the start of them revealing a Mass Effect, and then they like just walk up to the edge and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna talk about it later." Also, we're making a new IP, and that's it. Bye.
Yeah, that's it. I'm like,
And
wait. What was
And
that?
there was like stuff in shockingly, which was kind of weird for this particular thing. I can't remember what we were watching. It wasn't Twitch. I think it was the Spike interviews that were going on at the time, and they actually said stuff in those interviews that they didn't show in the actual thing. And I'm like, that's weird.
Jeff Keighley was just like, "Hey, is this Commander Shepard?" No, it's a
a
story.
whole-
It's a whole new story.
No.
Oh, are we gonna see any familiar characters? No.
familiar
Okay.
races.
Yeah, it was
no
just it was
characters.
very like I mean he could obviously they could obviously just be lying. But it ended up like usually where they're like, well, we don't have anything to announce right now. But he was just like, no, it's
No.
not.
Yeah.
Like
No.
that
And
story
I mean,
is
that-
over.
That's consistent. Like if you look back, even at our own coverage, like a year ago, they said the exact same thing, and they're just sticking to it.
That's
so.
true.
Well, that's good. I don't think. I think it'd be weird
Shepard's
to pick
story's
back up with
done,
the Shepard thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So it's still late, so I'm going to start pointing at people, and I want a one-word reaction to some of these games.
I see Bruce
Sims
Lee.
4,
Awkward.
Cute.
Dead.
Bruce Lee in UFC,
Whatever. That's cool.
NHL 15.
What?
Ooh. Hey, beautiful clothes in
The
English.
shirt physics.
Those
Yeah,
shirts.
PGA Tour 15.
Okay, I thought that
Evolution.
was
No,
funny.
We should
Yeah,
probably
level-
okay.
yeah.
We could pause and talk about this because
Oh,
I'm
like,
gonna play
I
PGA
wanna play
Tour
that
15.
now.
For the first time, I will
Right?
play a PGA
There's a
game.
battlefield
first time.
level with Levolution.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Extreme courses is what it's called here.
And that's just what they showed. I'm just like,
Yeah,
there's got to be something.
I love that because EA Sports games. I loved the EA Sports Big. Remember that when they had the like SSX was under it, but also and NBA Street, and it seemed like over the past 5 years, like EA Sports had lost a lot of its sense of fun with its sports games. They're like, nah, it's serious. This is a serious sports
Yeah.
game. But this year they've dumped Tiger Woods. They're like, nah, done
Yeah,
with
you don't need
Tiger.
Tiger Woods.
And so what they got if they don't have Tiger? They're like leveraging EA famous EA things. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there would be a Mass Effect stage or
Ooh,
a
on like a
that'd be
planet.
Which is so cool because
or a
like
Mirror's
Star
Edge
Wars.
stage or Dragon Age.
And I think it's great because it's almost like this Mario Golf thing where it's like you have this serious part for people who are really into golf sim,
Yeah.
but then you have a part that's really goofy and wacky for people like me who don't give a shit about golf, but I will play that game because
it
that's
looks-
really cool.
Exactly.
It looks really
Yeah.
cool. And then we got the Untitled Criterion project, which
Which
is
is
more
weird.
conceptual footage.
At
So
first
it's
I was
basically
like, please not Need for Speed, but with just helicopters.
so it's basic. So
I know.
so there's really not a ton to talk about, but it's basically they're making a new game. It has
Every other
skydiving,
vehicle.
helicopters,
every vehicle
Flying
in
every
existence.
vehicle ever. It honestly feels
And
like
you can
they're just
swap between them whenever you want.
from the looks of it. And this is totally
It looks like first-person GoPro
Yeah.
YouTube videos.
It looks like I was joking when they were showing it. It basically looks like the GoPro official game because they keep talking about GoPros. But it kind of looks like right now they're probably in a stage where they're just experimenting with every vehicle possible, and they want to put them all in. But I don't know if there's a game there yet.
Yeah.
It looks more like they've created kind of a sandbox where you can.
there's no
do
title.
anything.
There's no. It's like here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It'll be called Burnout, right? I think
Burnout,
eventually
Probably
GoPro.
not.
a
I don't know.
Burnout
Burnout
universe.
GoPro
No,
edition.
because the
GoPro
Burnout has a certain. Burnout is a game where you crash things. This doesn't look like you're meant to be smashing things into each other to seeing how the parts.
It's just hard to imagine EA launching something that isn't a famous brand. That's all. You never know. We'll see.
Then you
Might
got Madden,
surprise you.
Madden 15,
is a
Dawngate,
Don Game MOBA.
Mirror's Edge. We
Mirror's
finally
Edge
saw
too.
some.
Yeah.
Some
Some more
hint
That
of
was still
conceptual.
conceptual. Yes.
So the one cool thing we noticed about Mirror's Edge is that the game used to have melee, but it was kind of janky.
Yeah,
The new melee looks much more
Well,
organic.
yeah, in the sense like they made a point of it too. Like it's more integrated into her parkour moveset. It's like it's
It seems
It's
really
not just
tight
you
and, like,
run up, you stop,
choreographed.
and you punch somebody. It's like you're wall jumping. Oh, by the way, you can jump off and kick.
Yeah,
them in the face.
it almost looked like the Anthony Pettis UFC kick off the cage that they
Yeah.
showed off in the first UFC trailer, where a guy
Yeah,
just
that's
basically
weird.
does a kick.
Showtime kick.
Showtime kick. That's right.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks, Thomas. You're there for us. And then you got FIFA, and then you got Battlefield Hardline,
Cops and robbers.
Cops and Robbers.
Very,
cool. I'll play it.
apparently
Was-
very, very problematic.
I
Apparently.
mean, we're talking like
well-
really intense robberies here.
Yeah.
It's
We
not just
had-
a house robbery.
I saw
It's
people
like-
making fun of the fact that like their robbery. Well, first off, like their equipment was millions of dollars of equipment, and then to steal this thing, like these guys aren't terrorists. They're not ideologically bent to destroy things, or they're not an army, and yet they still like knock over a crane that like
Do you want to
destroys
go to jail
two
for your
buildings.
entire life?
I don't.
I can't go back.
Yeah.
Can't go back, man.
I pretty much spent the entire time being like, how is this guy not dead? Like a rocket goes off in his face. He's just like pummeled by glass from a collapsing building. I'm
He's
like,
just watching.
And-
Terminator? Is that
Yeah.
you?
I think it looks cool, though. I'm still skeptical about like. I understand the cops and robbers thing.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where 32 cops have had to try to stop 32 robbers from robbing a bank?
I
Like,
think so.
But that would be
I-
so
I-
fun.
I
need
kind of feel
backup.
like they almost should have like said it in like the 30s, because then I have no frame of reference. I could at least pretend.
Yeah, I feel like it is maybe a little too over the top for me.
Though there was a white van that pulled up that they could get into, and no joke,
All
that
they-
sold me on the concept.
All
a
they
little
needed
more.
to do immediately after that is like whip open the back door and like the robbers are getting out while one stays behind and goes, I gotta hack the mainframe, and he's just
That'd
smashing
be good.
keyboards with his
Yeah.
fist.
So what do you think of EA overall?
I thought they did a pretty good job, honestly. I mean, I think they hit all their big properties, and even the ones that are so far out, like Mass Effect, they're like, yes, this is happening. Here's just random glimpses of concept.
It feels kind of like what they're doing what people want Microsoft to do, in
Yeah.
that like, but they're not.
Acknowledge the stuff.
Yeah, like-
just get people
Like
excited.
people want the Microsoft press conference to be like, here's 2 seconds of Gears, but Microsoft's not doing it. And the funny thing is, I feel like that's what people want them to do. And when EA did it, it's like, actually, we kind of don't want to see like an untextured ATV doing a backflip off a cliff. Like maybe that's a little too
well,
early.
I think the difference there is they chose maybe some of the wrong games to do that. with.
They chose weird games.
Like Criterion stuff could have not mentioned that. I don't think anybody.
It was weird that he said like we have to reveal this because it'll leak anyway, or like it's
Maybe,
too good.
yeah.
No, people will
Yeah.
keep it
So
a secret. But I
jaded.
was like, really? What? This didn't look. I mean, it looked good, but this would leak.
I also thought it was a really cool move on their part to be like,
Include the community.
beta access for Battlefield Hardline is now.
yeah.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
That's
I was
always
waiting for
nice.
something like
And
that.
then they
to
lifted the
happen.
curtains off the side, and you're like, because they invited a lot of community people into this event, and then they're like, here, play it right now.
Yeah, that's
Smoke machines.
Yeah, so
All that
good,
smoke.
good presser. Moving
Yeah.
on, Ubisoft
Ubisoft.
started with more Far Cry 4 and showed off the main villain, who voiced by Troy Baker.
Of course.
Really?
It is. Who
Yes,
not voiced by Trey
and
Baker? Your preferred.
looks to be a very, very different kind of psychopath from Voss, but immediately you know that he is a full-fledged psychopath.
Like I get the sense, and maybe I'm entirely wrong because I didn't actually get to watch this very closely, but I did kind of get the sense that he was more sane in a way, but just he was aware of his like weird
I
idiosyncrasies.
don't know. I kind of thought that, like, because there's a scene in the beginning where, like, he basically, a guard doesn't do what he wants him to do,
And he
and he
just
pulls a knife out
him
on, or it's a
to death.
pen, I think. And he,
No,
it's
it's
like,
like
a tiny
it's like a
knife.
tiny
Small
knife.
knife.
And it's like, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna like stab him in the neck. But he like stabs him in the neck and then gets on top of him and keeps stabbing.
Yeah,
and that's
so-
the part that to me was like, this guy is fucking
well,
nuts.
he's what I mean is he is very conscious of what's going on.
The
And he's-
sociopath.
but
like
he's
Blackbeard
just
style.
yeah,
he's
he's
just
like,
prone.
sociopath.
He's
He's
just
sociopath.
prone to just rage.
Actually,
You know, like I think maybe that's kind of how his character is.
But he was like Voss. He was funny too.
Yeah.
Like he had
Oh, yeah,
humorous
definitely.
thing. Like he was sad that he got blood on his shoes, and like his last line was like, "Let's tear."
he
some-"
he
took
took a
selfie.
selfie.
He took a selfie with you. Yeah,
that was
As he-
genuinely funny.
as he
Yeah.
lights
I
a
don't-
truck on fire and kills everyone inside.
Also, I love when that trailer started that they swore at, like, that was when it was off Spike when we were watching the stream, and once it wasn't on cable TV anymore, like they just started going like fuck. Like Aisha
Yeah.
Tyler swore so much.
Like a sailor, that one.
Yeah,
I did want to say something real quick because I found out something. Don't quote me because it could be completely wrong. But what I was seeing was his name is something like Pagan Min or something
Yeah, I think
like
that
that.
is.
And he's actually controlling the operatives that that the main character's attacking in the actual gameplay footage we
Right.
saw. So I'm interested to see how that works out, because he seems like he's trying to like recruit you.
Yeah,
but
it's. I mean, Voss kind of had a similar like you have a lot of face-to-face interaction with him. I'm interested to see how it works out.
Yeah.
Then we got Just Dance 2015.
Oh yeah.
Still
fun.
That's
With your phone?
iPhones.
But they
cool idea. I don't know. That game's just never been quite as good as Dance Central.
And then we got The Division, which we just saw more of it. We did
Yeah.
see more of The Crew. That game's starting to look.
driving across
Better.
country.
I saw The Division just tonight at an event, and it was the demo they gave, but it was the interesting part of it is that they wanted to show off that you go to only so many different areas, but how much the areas change based on time of day, weather, and setup. And they also showed like the dudes in the super depressing trailer with the fire guys. Like they're this group. What are they? The flame. Shit. They're the cleansers.
Flame shit.
They're the
Cleaners.
the cleaners. They're the cleaners. They're trying to clean up the contagion, and their way is to burn everything. But they just have their fire looks great. The fire it is amazing looking. Like
As is everything in that game. from
yeah, it
what
all
we've
looks
seen.
awesome.
Snowdrop
yeah.
engine.
For-
It's a thing of
Gosh
beauty.
darn.
It's true.
for a second, I thought we were back on the crew, and I was really
no,
confused.
sorry.
Wait a minute.
Just gotta burn all the cars. We have to talk about Shape
Shape
Up,
Up.
though not for the reason you might expect. Shape Up is their exercise game.
Fitness game.
Fitness game
To make fitness fun.
to make fitness fun, and they showed off a push-up game with former GamesRadar editor-in-chief Gary Steinman competing in a push-up competition
So,
and winning.
U.S. versus France.
So it's funny because Gary is solely responsible for both you and I having jobs.
That's correct.
And
Well,
it was
no,
weird.
We're responsible. He just helped us along the way.
Right, of course. But it was weird seeing
well,
him
he
in that
hired me
position.
too.
All,
And so, yeah.
wow, yeah. So,
It's
but
very
yeah,
funny though.
they showed off a game. He decided to wear a neckerchief on stage in front of hundreds of
One
thousands of
and
people.
Why would you
Twitter
make that choice?
blew up. Like us three, at least the three of us included. Like Twitter blew up in my feed of just like at Gary Steinman's on stage. At Gary Steinman. Like
The
yeah.
funniest part was the fact that like there's a lot of people in the industry that just assume anybody that goes on stage is just a hired actor. So I saw like Jim Sterling from Destructoid, now at The Escapist, being like, look at this dork with his neckerchief, not knowing that it's like former, like he's like Gary gave him work at one point, I
Yeah.
think.
It's
But
like, you've worked with him
you
before.
just don't think that. You just see some guy in a neckerchief and think like, oh wow, with makeup. But it's like if you follow Gary on Twitter, he wears a neckerchief. That's just a thing he does.
Which
He's
is
doing
like
the
a
scarves
newer
now.
development for him, I think. Like in the recent months.
Working for a French company changed him.
Yeah.
Uh,
As
One-
it would anyone, I think.
I can't
Incrementally
imagine.
more
Yeah.
French over time.
One quick bit of trivia about that. I found out from Gary.
Are
that
you about
they-
to drop
yeah,
us
the-
neckerchief trivia?
Well, first off, that he then gave a neckerchief to our old buddy Ann Lewis, like as a congratulation, like we did it. Here's your own neckerchief. Gave her one too, and then
He's
also
trying to own the neckerchief, and it's not going to work.
well, and that he had to do it every time they did a dry run rehearsal of the thing. So just to set up the camera, so he had to do those push-ups multiple times over the last 3 days. Just
Good.
the push-up
That's
competition.
what he gets. Valiant Hearts was shown off. We've
Oh
seen
my
it a
God,
few
I'm
times
so
before.
excited
It looks
for
like the
that.
most
That looks great.
depressing game ever made.
Every
I'm
It's
starting,
sad.
I'm
World
starting
War
to think I'm just an absolute sucker for anything that's put on that engine, I think.
It might be the case.
Well,
Yeah.
that
But they're all like
Or just an absolute
emotional
sucker.
kind of
World
stories.
War
I might
One
just be-
and the whimpering dog. That wasn't it. That's
Yeah.
how it got
Oh
you.
my
you know what
gosh.
trailer
All
is
the
good?
letters.
And
I'm
he
like,
falls asleep on the graves of all his dead friends. Like,
Oh.
there's hundreds of friends I've had, and now they're all dead.
It's like
And-
the
Comes with a
dog
free razor.
outlives all the
Oh,
people.
yeah. And then there was the one more thing of the Ubisoft press conference, Rainbow Six
Oh,
Siege.
yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before the show. We're all like, okay, we know they have one thing to show that we don't know what it is. What is it going to be? And somebody brought up Rainbow Six, and I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be what it is. But none of us knew it was going to be Siege because
Right.
we all thought maybe it would be Patriots, which now I guess is
Is a-
100%
Just dead.
canceled.
Or
They
if
said.
or if they were like, maybe we should bring back Vegas because that was really popular or something like that.
But Siege looked so good, and Henry, you actually got to play it.
Yeah,
I
I
played
played
it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Oh, wow.
first off, that Siege is like it's like old Rainbow Six. It does not screw around. Like you're used to these other shooters that with auto healing and like you can take a couple mistake bullets. Like no,
There were no mistake bullets in
when I
Rainbow
played
Six.
when I played the first level, like I went up to the roof and then there was a shoot up on the second floor, and I was like, oh, I need to get down, jump, hit A. I thought I hit A, drop, hit the ground, dead.
Oh.
Like 2-story fall, dead. Like I'm not used to that. And but it seems so small scale compared to all the other, especially like say the Division, which is like all of New York City. But
this is a house.
Well, that is
a big
MMO.
house.
A single house.
But it is one house with like multiple floors. The hostages are inside. And
No,
you have
just
to-
one helpless hostage woman. I don't know why they just had that.
Yeah.
You know, it was
one-
weird to me that she could never just walk herself. You had
Nope.
to just like
You
hold
have
her
to hold
by the
her.
throat.
She's in. I'd like to see how good you walk around when people have been pointing guns in your face all day. Yeah.
I would wager that probably not very well, but
But yeah, it's about setting up traps. The people inside set up traps. All the walls, like seems like every surface is
You
destructible.
can
in that thing.
yeah,
This-
you can barricade everything.
this seems to me like the sort of destructible environments I've always wanted to have in a shooter.
Yeah.
Where
They're
it's like-
practical.
Literally, you can blow a hole in any wall, any ceiling, any floor.
But that's why the
That's
stages
nice.
are also kind of small buildings
Yeah.
because just to fit in that much destructibility.
Yeah,
But that was another bit that I was shocked by. It was like, okay, you got to set up that wall too.
Yeah.
Like, and then when I thought, like, oh, there's the window, that guy's gonna come by the window, I'll shoot him. And then the guy just shot me through the wall. I'm like,
Damn
oh yeah,
it.
I shot through the window, so he knows I'm on the other side of this wall, and he just shot me
It's
through the
super
wall.
strategic. Like you have to coordinate with your team members and tell them, be like, okay, what room are you in? Because it's hard to see around blind corners, and you have to set up your drones or hop security cameras to see your guys.
And I love the countdown of like every time someone dies, it starts 5v5, then 4v5, then
And you're
4v4,
like, yeah, it's pretty
3v4.
intense.
Also, we should probably acknowledge that last week on the podcast, we read in somebody's prediction
Yeah.
that they said, oh, by the way, I have a leak. As you may know, Rainbow Six Patriots was announced a few years ago but disappeared into nothingness. Last year, it was taken back to the drawing board to be overhauled and will be unveiled at E3 this year as a completely new game. Last I heard, it will have a new name and be based around hostage situations. There will be a slew of different nationalities to play as, and the number of toys to protect a generally 4-story building as you
Huh.
are holding a hostage, and at
Wow.
the other end you get to play as the SWAT team, the other team's victims. It's pretty much Ubisoft's attempt to throw its hat into the battlefield ring. So
Wow.
Wow.
heard it
Spot
here
on.
first.
But you know, one thing that really excites me is Rainbow Six has always been a franchise about strategic planning, a lot of prep going into a mission before the gameplay even starts, and then execution. And if you've ever, spent a lot of time planning a Rainbow Six mission and things start to go wrong, like then the split decisions that you have to make are really, really intense. And I feel like this is a really good extension of that. And I'm so excited for something like this.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you think overall of the Ubisoft press?
Oh man, I
conference?
thought they did an amazing job.
Yeah,
Which is funny because last year weren't we like, Ubisoft had a terrible conference?
Well, I didn't
They
think,
always have awkward moments, but this year it just seemed to
It was
like go by
great.
really
I didn't
well.
think last
pretty
year's was
streamlined.
terrible. It was kind of up and down. I also
Yeah.
I didn't like that H. Tyler had like the Girlwood t-shirt. I thought it was just like her overdoing a joke. Like it was her
It
t-shirt
was
was
very straightforward this year.
yeah, but she was also like she felt very real on stage.
Yeah.
And she also felt like she was going off script a lot more in good ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always
And
like Aisha
Of her
Tyler.
saying like, you're gonna have to hear that happy song, guys. You're not sick of that, right? Like,
Very funny.
By the way, they
yeah.
played the whole happy song almost. That was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I know.
and
yeah.
then
God
Lady
damn it.
Gaga's applause.
Yeah, good press conference.
Yeah,
though.
It was good, yeah.
All right, let's jump over to Sony. We're almost done.
All right, that was a long one.
Destiny gets PS4 beta this July, and there's going to be a Destiny bundle with a white PS4.
So yeah,
I
so,
want that PS4, man.
So it was weird because there was a little bit of confusion. The way they had mentioned get beta on PS4 first and the alpha first look. Like so the alpha first look I think is exclusive just to PS4. The beta I think they get like 4 days early access and then the beta is available to Xbox One and PC.
Yeah, they're very careful with the wording because they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, coming first," but it doesn't say
Yeah,
like it's
it's-
exclusive or.
So yeah, there was a little bit of confusion about that, but yeah, it looks all right.
Yeah, it looks, it looks all right.
Yeah, Sony's going for hearts and minds with Destiny of just convincing consumers like, though they could buy it on the Xbox One, think of Destiny connected to the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, they're
Like,
they're just trying to kind of convince everyone of that. The Order 1866 had a new 1886 had a new trailer. The trailer was so dark that I pretty much had no idea what was going on. For
I spent the first minute. I'm like,
I
which
love
game
that
is
it
this?
finally showed like the creatures they'd been sort of talking about, like because in a lot of the backstory stuff, you're very aware that these exist.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're in a war with monsters. We're not showing you monsters. Like,
And that thing looked really creepy.
Yeah.
yeah,
it
was
pretty
just
much
a werewolf.
Yeah.
They're
hairless
afraid.
werewolf.
They're afraid to call werewolves. It's like in that movie, The Underworld, where they're like, no, they're lichens. They're not werewolves. They're lichens. But
Like, shut up.
yeah, I know. But I thought it looked good. Like it did the same thing that it did so well in the stuff we've seen before, which was just shift from action to cinematic and back again, like so seamlessly.
Yeah.
Like, it
It
did
looks
very good. With that.
pretty,
And that's
like,
on. They finally gave it a release date, February 20th, I think.
Yep,
of
it's coming out
2015.
Oh.
sooner than I think a lot of people thought.
Yeah.
Considering
Yeah,
that
for real.
delay was people thought it
I'd
was
still
gonna
put
be kicked back.
$5 down, and it won't
It'll
be
get pushed.
February. Yeah.
We will see. Let's see if you have to put your money where your mouth is. Come February 20th, Entwined is a
I
new
really
IP,
was
and you don't have to hear us talk about it because it's already out, and other websites have probably already reviewed it if they don't have everyone sitting at E3 right now.
Yeah.
I will play it, probably.
That looks cool.
I was hoping for more reveals like that. Of just like
There were a few.
I thought it was that game company's game. I was like, oh, it kind of looks like Flow, Flower, and Journey all put together in one. I'm like, nope.
I definitely saw like 4 or 5 games today that were just like they just ripped off that game. Well, not ripped off, but like very inspired by that game company.
Yeah. Infamous is getting some DLC.
It's standalone, which is cool.
Yeah, standalone
So
DLC.
You don't even need the game.
Yeah.
More importantly, though,
Little
Big
Big
Planet
Planet.
3.
Yeah.
Which,
So
by the
good.
way, our stream went down for like 45 seconds, and when we came on, they were like 30 seconds into the Little Big Planet thing, and we're like, what the hell did we miss?
Yeah.
All the
What is this
characters.
thing?
We ended up seeing them, but I think it's interesting because Little Big Planet 1 was huge. 2 came out so soon after 1 that it kind of burnt a lot of people because they made a big deal out of like, we never need to make sequels. You can just make everything. And then they made it really quick.
Sequel.
Little Big Planet 3, though, looks like a sequel that was needed because A, it's bumping it to next gen, and every single level ever made can be transferred with next gen visuals.
That was a pretty great. They had to
That's
do that, but
impressive.
I didn't think they'd pull it off.
And more importantly, 4 different
Unique
characters.
characters.
So there's a bird, a dog.
Swoop the bird, odd sock the dog, and toggle the
guy.
large or small guy.
Yeah, and then Sackboy.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Yeah, and
I'm
it's
excited for it.
and
looks pretty
it's one of those rare games we saw today that is revealed and out this year. Like it's their
Yeah.
November game, or it is a November
Sweet.
game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bloodborne.
Yeah, so
Project Beast.
that's what Project Beast is actually called. And that trailer was so dark also that I could barely tell what the hell was going
Dark
on.
in
The
many
name
ways.
Bloodborne was actually leaked or trademarked or something like a few months ago, and nobody knew what it was.
That's
Nobody,
true.
nobody drew the lines between Bloodborne and Project Beast. But it looks Dark Soulsy, but not
Not
as much as I
really.
thought.
Yeah, well, it was so hard to tell from the screenshots, right? Because they were like, fog gates? That's weird that they're okay. So maybe just all From Software games from now on are a derivative of the Souls kind of formula. But you do definitely have a shotgun and a scythe. That
And
is
you're
what
like-
your dude
A
has.
really big scythe.
But it looked like you were interacting with people more.
I couldn't really tell.
Kind
yeah, it
of.
was really
I couldn't
bizarre.
tell because it was too dark.
you were
But it's-
cutting
it's-
open something
It's really
or
creepy.
someone.
It's probably really gory and really, I would imagine, challenging. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear more. Honestly, we still know so little about it.
I still think it's crazy now that like a From Software logo can get huge applause in an
That's
American
awesome.
press conference. Like that would 4 years ago even people would have been just like if they even knew what From Software was, it'd be like, oh, the Armored Core guys, me.
The hell?
like,
Yeah.
So Dead Island 2 was announced, which we got interesting information on that wasn't shown at the convention, not developed by Techland.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is developed by Jaeger from Spec Ops: The
oh,
Line.
that's what Jaeger. That's their next game. Wow,
Those-
It
boy,
was so weird to me
That
they
is
didn't
complicated.
mention that in the thing.
That
That
actually,
is-
that makes a lot of sense because it seems like those guys are a lot more spot on with what they make, and that's exactly what they did with that because that's what Dead Island needs to be.
Yeah,
is
Dead
a
Island
goofy
needs someone else,
bullshit
and I'm
game.
really hoping because the trailer was very cartoony. There were some people thinking that it might have been like a weird left, like it may have been the new.
I thought it was Left 4 Dead for a second.
It
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
looked like the art style was almost Fortnite, Like
Yeah.
it had that kind of really cartoony art style, and I'm really, really hoping that they carry that over to the game because we do not need another realistic first-person zombie game.
Well, I mean, we were talking about that earlier, right? Like the trailers for both Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide were very self-serious kinds of things, but they were not at all in line with the tone of those
Not
games.
even.
Because they are really goofy and weird.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
like one of your guys is a rapper in Dead Island, right?
Yeah.
And they just make up a thing like, "Oh no, you're immune. Why?"
Yeah, and it's just like, and if any of, if anyone's played those games, you immediately were like, oh yeah, I strapped some electric wire around a machete, and now it's an electric machete. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
none of it was ever serious.
Now it
And
makes
so-
sense that like Dying Light, they started making Dying Light because they got Dead Island taken from them, or like Dead
or
Island's
they
not
didn't
there,
want
or
to
they
make a new
quit
Dead
it, yeah.
Island, or it was probably they wanted to make a big Dead Island, and Warner Brothers offered them more money for it, but they couldn't take the name with it.
So here's what I'm wondering: like, is Dead Island like? This could be a really, really good game, and I wonder if this will now put Dead Island in this interesting place where suddenly it's a very popular and well-known brand.
Dead Island is the Demon Souls to
Dying Light's Dark
Dying
Souls.
Light's Dark Souls.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Some other little news bits. Disney Infinity is going to be getting Avengers, specific
I think Hulk was
PS4. Hulk is going to be exclusive to PS4, which doesn't actually make sense because I know the figurines are cross. I think there's going to be a specific bundle. The PS4 bundle is going to come with the Hulk. The other ones aren't, but you're still going to be able to buy a Hulk toy because they're
But they
not
may have said
platform-specific.
exclusively first to whatever.
Yeah. Diablo 3 is getting an exclusive
Last of
Last of
Us.
Us dungeon.
Yeah,
the enemies.
With like clickers and stuff.
It's like, all right, sure.
Magica is getting a PS4 sequel,
That's a cute trailer.
and
Yeah.
Grim Fandango is
Yes.
coming to the
Nobody
PS4.
would have saw that coming.
That's awesome.
And so I was handling the Twitter during that, and I tweeted a joke about it at Tim Schafer, and he actually might have revealed some information to us because he made a joke like, yeah, somebody hacked into the game and put point-and-click controls in there. I prefer the old tank controls. So I guess that means they're redoing the controls.
Always.
But I wonder if that was one of Sony's like moves to just get like a cred move, because I can't think like Grim Fandango's not going to make them a lot of
Oh,
money.
that's not gonna sell.
But they can just say like,
Unfortunately.
people love Double Fine. Let's just see if Double Fine wants to do something with us.
Yeah,
Of course they would.
Well, I'm
yeah.
excited
But
because
did LucasArts own Grim Fandango?
I think
Did they-
so, and I remember seeing Tim Schafer posted something on Twitter that was like, "Thank you to Sony and LucasArts for letting this happen." Kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Also, LucasArts doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
Disney
that's
then,
right.
I guess.
Disney.
Or
I'm
something.
also excited because this is one of those games that is often talked about. Like, yeah, it's such a great, such a great shining example of point-and-click games, and yet you can't play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've never played it. I'm excited for the opportunity.
Exactly.
Suda51's other new game that isn't Lily Bergamo.
I kind of want to
Let
see
It
Lily.
Die.
Yeah, I was hoping to see Lily Bergamo, honestly. Like, Let It Die was just weird. It was a very weird Japanese trailer. It seems like it's like cooperative multiplayer monster
It
killing.
kind of
or
looks like
something.
a realistic version. I mean, didn't look like it was in game, but it looks like the tone was a realistic version of Mad World.
Yeah, a little. It reminded me more of Shadows of the Damned. When I first started seeing it, I was like, is it another Shadows of the Damned? Because it's the same kind of gross underworld, but it's more gross than silly.
Yeah.
It looked okay.
And then we saw Abzu.
Oh, that one looked interesting.
Developed by Giant Squid. It's an interesting looking indie. And then No Man's Sky, which
Oh, man.
That looks awesome.
it looks like that game. If
Has
it
dinosaurs.
sells, if it
Yes.
fulfills its promises, is going to be one of the weirdest, coolest games ever.
Yeah.
Quite a change from Joe Danger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then they showed off some free-to-play games. They talked about PlayStation Now. So
That was
PlayStation
a
Now.
weird, long section.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
yeah,
was.
we can. Some people asked us to talk about like the pacing in the press conference.
Had a good
It
start,
wasn't just
and then
you.
just fucking crashed.
We
for
actually
a good 25
it was
minutes.
literally the first hour was great, and then the guy who made Vib Ribbon took over, and for 25 minutes just didn't talk about anything. He just kind of was like
talked in circles.
he talked in circles about just like, hey guys, we make video games and we made I made Vib Ribbon, and did you buy a PlayStation? Cool. We stream stuff. A lot of people play on the PSN, and he just kept going for 25 minutes. And then when he left, it's like, oh, thank God. And then somebody came up and Andrew House was just like, let's talk about TV shows and movies. And it's like, what did you not learn from last year?
That was really weird because I felt like in the aftermath of last year's E3 that Sony fanboys on NeoGAF and whatnot, they were saying like, hey, we only talked about games, none of that TV bullshit. And then here comes Sony at the end of theirs like, yeah, we're making this original TV show. We're doing all these other things. And yeah, they have.
It went on for so long.
And I was the audience for that. Like, I've read Powers, the comic. I'm a huge fan of Brian Michael Bendis, but like that wasn't the right place for him. He was just not a good time. But PlayStation TV,
yeah,
I will buy that.
TV is going to be $100, but it just felt so weird that like Sony has been doing great with momentum in every way, and for them to just have an hour of crazy momentum and then to kill it to death.
Well, their investors are also there too, so I think it's partially for them.
Yeah,
or mostly.
They have a lot of masters to serve.
Yeah. So PlayStation TV is coming this year to the US and the UK. Not PlayStation Vita TV anymore, though they did say that 100 Vita games are in development right now.
That's a lot of Vita games.
Mortal Kombat X.
When they had that Vita list of games, I was just like, that's a super obscure Tales game. That's a downloadable.
Did have like 9 of the 10 games they talked about were all on PC.
Well, when Jack Tretton was on the Spike pre-show leading up to the Sony thing, that Jeff Keighley asked him about the Vita, like how come we're not seeing like these big Vita games, and he's like. Well, and he basically is like, well, the Vita's not doing amazing, so nobody's going to pay for that. And like he pretty much straight up answered the question, which I thought was kind of cool and
weird and refreshing.
I mean, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty much what everybody assumes to be the case.
The Vita's still fun.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, Mortal Kombat X.
Mortal Kombat X.
Oh my God.
Which I'm shocked at how close the in-game graphics looked to that CG trailer. It was almost identical.
Yeah,
I really doubted that. Yeah, I really doubted that CG trailer's veracity, but then seeing it in action, I was like, yeah, that was pretty much it. And the 3 new characters that were in it, my favorite was the Master Blaster guy. I think it was everybody's like, is that you guys Master Blaster from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome? The little guy that rides a giant guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. But that they were working in tandem, and like the big guy would throw the little guy at the guy, and it was like these combo moves. Like that was fun. And like the X-ray moves were nuts.
I did love it. Was solid.
We managed to stay pretty quiet, except for like, oh, that's cool, or ooh, cool. We the entire last minute of that trailer, we were just
screaming.
Every one of us like
screaming.
We just kept like our voices.
Squirmy.
It was really weird. It was real, but it looked really cool.
Looks fun.
Last of Us looks good.
Yeah.
Well,
spoilery trailer, man.
Spoilery trailer. Metal Gear Solid 5 looks good.
Yeah.
Weird trailer.
It was great because the guy gets cremated and Snake takes the ashes and Ryan went like he should just put it in his mouth all over his face, and then Ryan looked away and looked back and just sees him smearing the ashes all over.
I said it as a joke and then he did it. I was like, Jesus Christ!
Why did he listen to me?
In the longer version of that trailer, there's a weird line where Snake says like, "We will take these ashes, turn them into diamonds. They will shine brightly forever. We are the diamond.
I was the lightning in that storm."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, like it's Kojima. Yeah, it was a cool song. I like the song.
It was a good song.
It was a neat song.
I just love those super melodramatic lines that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think they're meant to be so emotional.
Yeah, that you can only experience in a Metal Gear game.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So earnest.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Which I was just like,
So you were there. You saw it without compression. It looked no different from Grand Theft Auto 5 last gen to us.
I mean, yeah. It's just.
I wonder though if that'll be a case of because really those models look pretty good.
It'll probably just be like there'll be less texture pops. There'll be less like things popping in. There'll be more pedestrians.
I think you'll just see more when you're
around. When you're around, but.
Yeah.
I doubted that this would happen, and I've been proven wrong.
And it's getting a PC version. Finally.
I mean, yeah.
So really, it's just bring GTA 5 to new consoles.
That's pretty much it. Scarecrow trailer for Arkham Knight, and the trailer, oh my God, looked good.
Let's talk about, Henry, you as a comic book reader. I don't know about a Batman suit that is so mechanical that it's popping plates into place.
I mean, it's kind of a takeoff on the movie The Dark Knight one, that it's like well-placed bits of armor for functionality, because like the classic Batman costume, the closest it got was in Arkham City, where it like looked almost cloth-like but with like padding or whatever in it. But really, a classic Batman costume is just like, no, it's a cloth costume. He just wears it and he has a cape and a cowl. But they kind of just, for as beat up as he gets and to have all his gadgets and stuff, it's basically become like RoboCop armor.
It almost has to be though. Like, the beatings he has to be taking.
Well, to be fair, we learned in Gotham that you don't actually die when you're beaten up by somebody or when Batman's car shoots a rocket launcher at you. He has the craziest non-lethal weapons that basically he was blowing up cars. But he doesn't kill anyone. I'm betting that when you drive up to like you blow up a car, it's just a huge fireball, and then you walk up and there's just like guys laying next to it like, oh, you hurt us.
Well, the first demo, he did snap a guy's neck.
No, he broke that dude's arm. Remember, he was holding his arm and he goes like snap, like
I feel like,
which was hardcore for bats, but he didn't break his neck.
I feel like they just kind of like. I feel like companies are just kind of like, well, we want to make video games like we always do, but he doesn't kill people.
Well, they did say too that those cars he was blowing up were unmanned, remote control.
Of course
They're drones.
They were Google cars.
Well, as I think it is, the DC has a very hard rule on. They're like, Batman doesn't kill, period. But they're, to make an open world action game, like, you have to do things that would kill people, like, because
he runs over somebody in his car at one point.
Let's also talk about the amount of force that you would hit somebody with if you had just been gliding from 50 stories
and punching them in the face.
And you kick them in the head.
Sometimes you are dead. You gotta get the job done. Also, I think officially, Batman villains are not allowed to say, "Don't worry about Batman," because they've all had every bone in their body broken by. Like in the trailer, just the Penguin is like, "Don't even worry, he's nuts. He's none of your business." It's like I broke your nose in the last game.
And Sony did that same damn thing they did last year, where they're like, "Oh, now's the opportune time to zoom out, way back, so you can't see what's going on." And he's like,
they did the same thing they did at the GDC, remember how everyone made fun of Gamescom, where like they spent every time they showed a game, they would just show like sweeping shots of the audience, and like you'd kind of see the screen.
Wait.
They kept doing that, except it made sense for Batman because the Batman feed got hacked. Though it got hacked by Scarecrow. It feels like he's the last in line to be hacking shit.
I guess Scarecrow has that tech too. I mean, he's a scientist, so
but shouldn't it be like I would guess the Riddler can hack people. The Arkham Knight may hack stuff.
Maybe you could say that his fear toxin got into the room and it was a mass hallucination. Maybe it was that.
Also, I wonder maybe too if that hack sequence went on for. That was really good. If the hack sequence was going on for just a little too long, because we were all like, "Oh, it's probably fake. Oh, it's."
I came
now we're uncomfortable.
This close to, since I was tweeting for GamesRadar, this close to tweeting, I guess we know why Batman Arkham Knight got delayed. But so they actually that troll worked.
Yeah.
That worked very
And
did.
the last announcement out of Sony, Uncharted: A Thief's
Not
End.
Last Guardian.
That's
Nope, Last Thief.
Yeah, the last.
for as
A
little as we saw.
So, yeah.
And I mean, and I was the one who got to work on that one. I was trying to like pull pieces out of it, what little we absolutely could. Pretty much is what we know. It's Nathan Drake's back in the game. He's been out of it for some reason. We don't know why, but he has. He's back with Sully. Sully's going to help him one last time. I'm guessing Sully hasn't been out of the picture. Nathan Drake still has his wedding ring on, so Elena might be coming back in some capacity, probably.
Or, like I said, between the events of the two games, he broke up with Elena and formally married Sully.
Anything is
Could
possible.
happen.
It's legal now.
It's legal now.
It's like that entire.
Also, he probably has a medical marijuana license because
Also legal now.
It's legal now.
Yeah.
And that entire trailer
'Cause
is
then
just
you
a
just
lover's
have it.
quarrel.
No judgment zone. All right. But
His
yeah,
face looked awesome.
it looked really good. He looks more like Nathan Fillion than ever.
Well, and one thing that I thought was really cool, and we also talked about this a little bit earlier, was because we'd been joking, right, like that. Oh, the trailer will probably open with him like all beat up and in a bad situation, and he'll laugh it off and find a way out. But it to me, it felt way heavier. He was just like, seemed so exhausted and just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I
Tired
have to
and
go
old."
through with this.
Yep.
I wonder if that's like the message Naughty Dog is saying, like, we really didn't want to do another Uncharted, but
Yeah.
you're
I
making us, so like one more time, we're doing this.
There was an industry insider I saw some tweets from where it's like, Uncharted 4 is going to be darker and heavier, and I'm like, I want to believe that because that's what it kind of looks like, but
I don't know. I think that trailer, at least to me, conveyed that, and
Yeah.
I'd be totally fine with it, honestly.
When they call it the Thief's End, like that feels like it's the end of it.
Yeah,
But
but they could also, like we were saying earlier, it's like I'm okay with that being the end, if not only because I would do anything if Naughty Dog was like, hey, the next Uncharted game takes place during the 70s and you're playing as Sully.
There you
With
go.
like 70s spy gear, you find out he was like in like that'd be cool as
what's
hell.
Indiana Jones? It can take place anytime. Like,
Yeah.
as long as he was alive.
I can also possibly see just like pulling something right at the end, and it's like, oh, there was actually a different thief that you didn't know.
Oh,
about.
this guy was the thief.
This other
and
guy was
it's his
actually
Oh
end.
the thief.
shit! What if it's Sully? What if he's the thief that's ending?
They already
That guy's like
dealt with
800
that.
years old.
they already made me think he was dead the last time. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy into it.
No, that
again.
was genies.
Yeah, but so since they already got that, like if they do it now, like
Well, now
no,
if they
he's
just
dead
do it for
real.
real, that'd be cool. I mean,
Yeah.
not cool. I'd cry like a baby. I'd sob
Sully.
uncontrollably. So that's Sony. What'd you think of Sony versus Microsoft?
That's tough. You know,
Too
I'm
much
gonna,
third party to really make that fight.
It's true.
I'm going to say Microsoft actually because just presentations together. I still think the PS4 is the system to get if you can only buy one of them. But I think it was just like their reveals were about equal. Though like Tomb Raider was a complete new thing, while meanwhile Mortal Kombat and Batman I knew about ahead of time, and meanwhile like. Sony had to take time to talk about TV shows, and
Yeah.
that was boring. Like,
Yeah.
so I say Microsoft.
Microsoft had the better show.
I think I would say so too, but also because it's just like I had definitely different expectations coming in. I kind of had low expectations for Microsoft just because of the way they've been presenting
Right.
themselves. I kind of expected more of the same, and I didn't get that, so I was like, oh, that's great. And then PlayStation, they had a pretty strong showing still, but the fact that they've done so well before, and then it was just like, was kind of like,
Yeah, I'd say Microsoft definitely kept the momentum going a lot better. I was probably more excited about most of the Sony announcements, but the way a lot of them were presented were just like so underwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft has a really strong opening. Like I was so excited this morning, and after the show, I'm like, man, if the rest of the day keeps up, like that'd be great. But yeah, Sony just kind of. I know Sony ended on like, oh, this is dragging on. I'm really tired, and okay, let's just wrap it up. But yeah, good job, Microsoft.
Yeah, I think Microsoft had the better show in terms of like
Yeah.
performance. I personally think Sony had the better lineup.
I
Like
do
looking
too.
over I honestly feel like LittleBigPlanet, for what it's worth, means that Sony now has the bigger exclusive for 2014.
Yeah.
Like for the rest of the year. Like Sunset Overdrive, especially after going hands-on with it, isn't the game that's gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, that's the exclusive. That's the big game of the year. Whereas like LittleBigPlanet, it might not be a huge AAA game, but at least it's a Sony brand game that is coming out this year that is like widespread appeal.
and it's like you've got 2 2014 releases probably, or like 3, so
Yeah.
there isn't too much competition.
Not that it matters
but-
because from October till December, you're going to just be doing nothing but playing third-party games because there's like a million of them
Oh my
coming out.
god.
Is that
Yeah, October is crazy.
Yeah,
October's gone nuts.
There's a lot, but I think that's it for today. We have to wake up because it is now 1:27 a.m. We have to wake up in about 7 hours to talk about Nintendo. Welcome back to Radio Radar. We said we were gonna take a break and then do a new episode, but we decided to just lump them all into one episode. So we're just gonna jump into Nintendo.
We're a lot more fresh-faced than we were in the last video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're not falling asleep. We're
no.
just waking up.
No, that'll be like an hour from now.
Yeah.
So the Nintendo Direct started off with about 2 minutes of robot chicken jokes.
That was
Which were
that was
I
fun.
missed
perfect.
Oh, they were so good.
They were really fun.
I loved when they made fun of the Mother 3 guy.
They referenced Mother 3 in the Nintendo Direct. A guy said, Reggie, where's Mother 3? And then Reggie lit him on fire. Though, interestingly, that only other thing that guy said was Reggie, where's Star Fox?
which was real. See, this thing that should have been getting you to think Mother 3 still will never come out only made you think it more so will come out.
Nintendo's just trolling us. But the first thing they actually talked about once they finished dancing around via Claymation was new characters for Smash Brothers.
Yeah, that was exciting seeing the Reggie versus Iwata video. Was so cool, like super produced.
Yeah.
And though it was weird watching it now when you hear that Iwata's not here because his doctor won't let him go.
Because Reggie punched him too hard.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got 3 new characters. You got 4 new characters. One is Lady Palutena, who they actually revealed at the end, but we don't have to go through it that way.
Yep, from Kid Icarus, in case you don't know.
Looks cool.
Yeah, she looked cool.
But the bigger reveal is 3 new characters via 3 different Miis, who is your Mii, or Reggie, or anybody you want, with 3 different characters. One with a sword, one who's just a brawler, and one with a giant gun.
Yep, gunner, brawler, sword fighter.
And they all have like really, really different playstyles, right? So, and you can choose their movesets from a total of like 12 each.
It looks like it, yeah.
So it's like
different combos and stuff like that.
Yeah, that potentially makes for dozens of different kinds of characters.
Yeah, I think they actually specifically said it's basically 9 full characters, but like almost a crazy amount of customization.
And because we've been playing Tamagotchi Life and we've seen all the different kinds of Miis we can have in there, we know we can have all kinds of weird fighters in Smash Bros.
I'm just gonna warn you, I'm gonna punch you in the face as hard as I can.
I can't wait to import my Steven Tyler.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I've heard that name too many times
today. But the after showing off those characters, they finally talked about NFC via Amiibo.
Yeah. So it's
Amiibo?
like
here's the thing: at least they're calling it something that people aren't going to mistake for something else.
Cage fighting.
Well, like Wii-U. They're not.
Yeah. It's a very specific name. I guess that's why they're doing it. But Amiibo is like it's gonna be so. Can you imagine a kid saying like, "Mom, get me Amiibo"?
Yes. Kids say dumb things.
Yeah.
I guess so.
You're talking to people who went, "Mom, get me some Pogs."
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean,
Mom, I need those balls that roll around.
Those NFC
Marbles?
figures looked really, really cool, though.
Yeah.
Like, their
Yeah,
detail
they're
looked
really-
awesome.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
It definitely looked a step. I'm not going to say at a glance they look probably on par with the Disney Infinity.
I mean,
But more detailed. Like
Yeah.
Disney Infinity is like purposefully undetailed.
Yeah, but definitely
Well, they
many
went with a
steps
different
above.
art style. I like the fact that they're staying true to what the characters actually
Yeah.
look like instead of
Yeah.
giving it a stylized look.
But it's not they're not doing NFC in the way that Skylanders and Disney did, in that you're not just buying the toys and those are the only characters you play as. It's almost a separate meta game where you take your Mario. There was Mario, Link, Samus, Wii Fit Trainer,
Yoshi,
Donkey
Peach,
Kong, Yoshi,
yeah,
Peach,
lots of them.
Villager, Pikachu. At least like 10 they showed off. You take it, you put it on the gamepad, and you load them into your game, and they can join you, fight against you, fight with you, or you can just, and by doing that, you're training them and leveling them up, almost like a Tamagotchi. And then you're putting that, you can go to your friend's house and make them fight, and then it's like, well, you could say, like, my Link is better than your Samus. Besides us being able to play it, I just trained mine up a lot.
Yeah.
And I think in general, the Amiibo means that they don't have to build an entire game around it, or like make like they have to add some massive addition of Amiibo's NFC action to Smash Brothers. It can just be a bunch of little things in the games, fitting whatever the developers want to do with it.
Though I stand by my theory that it's eventually going to funnel towards one big game, though it looks like that big game isn't announced yet. Though they did say that it's going to work with Mario Party 10, which, by the way, that's literally when they revealed Mario Party 10.
that was amazing.
It's going to work with Mario Kart 8. They're going to patch in support for that.
Yep.
It's going to work with Captain Toad's Wild Ride.
I'm so looking forward to that.
Toad Treasure Seeker.
Treasure
Tracker.
Treasure Tracker.
That's it.
That looked great.
That looks
looked
fun.
Great, by the way. There were so many little, a lot of the Nintendo was a lot of little things after Smash Brothers,
including Yoshi's Woolly World.
Which I
it looks
love.
So cute.
The animations in that are incredible.
Yeah.
It looks so good.
And it looks much better. I lost a little Yoshi faith after Yoshi's New Island, which wasn't terrible, but was not good.
Meh.
It wasn't great. And so this one seemed more fun and more in keeping with the Yoshi style. And I just loved like the little conversations they were having with the developers, where the developers said like, yeah, we even knitted our own Yoshi just to get into it.
I feel like it's
That was
taking
super
on this
cute.
whole new like platform though, because like with Kirby's Epic Yarn, I didn't feel like it played like the other Kirby games. It's like its own thing, and this whole yarn thing, it's so creative.
It looks
I love
so-
it.
and
It's
it
like
looks-
Little Big Planet with all the balls and
Yeah,
It looks
and
like
then
cubes.
I love the exploration. Looks like a lot of fun. They're like, that's pretty much what you do, and it's like
Yeah.
good because it looks great.
yeah, it looks really cool. And then there's then they announced a bunch of digital games, including the Captain Toad Treasure Tracker and the Kirby Kirby's
Kirby's Under the Rainbow Curse, I believe it is. Wasn't
or just Kirby's
I have no
Rainbow.
idea.
or Kirby's Rainbow Curse, but it's Kirby. It's a Kirby Canvas Curse sequel. Which, if you haven't played that one, it was one of the first first DS games that really sold me on the concept. Like, it was just you draw a line all over the screen, and Kirby rolls around it. You could like draw a loop to loop to get him to get more speed. And so now I've been waiting for them to make a sequel for almost 10 years, and
It was a good game.
this is just the type of thing that
Finally.
like that their downloadable platform is made for. Like, it was barely a retail level game as a launch-ish game for the 3DS or for the DS. I keep saying that, but on the Wii U, like, it fits as a $10 download. But it is weird to see Nintendo announce any downloadables that are like 2015. I'm like, oh, it's a downloadable.
Well,
like,
why'd you even announce it now?
Yeah.
Though they did have one 2015 game that's worth getting super pumped for, the next Zelda game, which genuinely looks like a
yeah.
cel-shaded Skyrim.
Yeah.
which is sweet.
They showed
gorgeous.
off like a minute of footage, or maybe like 20 seconds. It was on screen.
it was like
for
a screen.
Yeah, but they showed off a screen, but it was in motion. But he was Aonuma.
Aonuma. Yeah.
Aonuma was like pointing. He's like, look at the mountains in the background. You can just ride there. You can take on anything from any angle you want. It was huge, beautiful open world. And then they showed about like 20 seconds of footage of like him riding and fighting. He was dressed in like a blue tunic, which is probably just means he hasn't gotten his Hero
Yeah.
of Time get up yet.
So I saw some people on Twitter saying, like, is that a girl? Is Link secretly a girl this time? A
A lot of people
think that
thought
would
that it
be
was going to be
cool,
Zelda.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I would.
Oh.
If Zelda was Link, or if, like, at the end of the game, they're like, we now crown you Princess Zelda for saving our
And he
country."
goes like,
but
That's how
that-
they actually get Princess Zeldas.
and there wasn't any swordplay either. It was just that fancy transforming arrow.
yeah.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that like a magic axe arrow thing?
Yeah.
It's
don't know.
it's
Like
very
a
like
sharp-
Nintendo to show off a teaser for a game, and this is the same thing they did when they teased Skyward Sword, where like they tease something with no information, but there's a little too much detail in it for it to be no new information, and then websites are going to look through it and tear it apart and be like, oh shit, if you look at that arrow, it actually has an eye in it, and that probably means that it's like his Navi or something. Like, people are going to be able to dig into it, and by people, I mean GamesRadar. Expect to see that article later today.
I did think it looked like Shadow of the Colossus a bit too. That's
Oh, yeah.
in a good
Tiny
way.
bit. Yeah.
They finally showed some footage of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It looks like we expected. Full 3DS game.
Yep. And there was a little bit afterwards that apparently the rumor was going on that they're going to have primal reversions
Yeah.
now, like so de-evolutions to go with mega evolutions. Like, so
That's
technically you can see it on the cover. Legendaries, Kyogre and Groudon are both primal versions of themselves.
Yeah, so it's instead of going to the next form, it's the like what they were in the like dinosaur times when it was they were basically just T-Rexes. We got to see some Bayonetta. Bayonetta's gonna be cosplaying as Peach, Link, and Samus, and it's gonna come with Bayonetta 1 on the same disc for Bayonetta
is
2,
awesome.
and it's coming out in
Brilliant.
October.
That was great. Yeah, the only downside was that it's August for Japan, October for here, but it's not such a big delay.
That was a great idea on their part because nobody on the Wii got to play before. So.
Exactly, yeah. And then speaking of still coming out this year, Hyrule Warriors, which is gonna let you play as Midna.
And Zelda, Midna and Zelda both
Yes.
playable. Like that looked good. The brief shots of it. It made me more excited for it. Like, I think they also just have Aonuma talk about like, hey, no, I approve of this. This has the right to exist.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty, and it also got away from showing now I can't remember her name, but the villainess in the game who has just her giant revealing boobs all over. I'm like,
very giant, very revealing. Wow.
it just, but yeah, just when I saw that, I was like, Tecmo, just rolling my eyes, and so I didn't like seeing that in a Zelda game, but they stepped away from that, and yeah, like Zelda looked like her Twilight Prince, or no, she looked like her Skyward Sword self, and Midna looked like Midna.
Yeah,
so.
it looked cool. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, by the way.
Okay.
Xenoblade Chronicles X, the second game of E3 that is just another game's name with the letter X at the end.
Well, I'm kind of curious too if this is like a direct sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles. Obviously, it takes place in the same universe, so they probably wouldn't name it that. But it looked really cool. That was mostly like a story setup trailer. And there were just tons of people and robots blowing stuff up. So looks pretty awesome.
It does.
Yeah, it looked. I thought it was great, and I kept thinking like ever since it was announced, Nintendo was going to say, "Nah, we're not putting that in America. We're just not," and they just like keep making it clear, like, "No, for real, we're putting this one out in America. You don't have to give."
That's
us
another
competition."
2015 game. Man, that year's crowded.
Boy, 2015. Yeah, I bet that Zelda will not be out in 2015. It'll be early 2016. I bet.
I hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
Mario Maker.
Yeah, for real, it was a real deal, and I love that you could swap between the visuals of 8-bit original Super Mario Brothers and new Super Mario Brothers U. Like that was really neat.
Yeah, they showed off some crazy levels. You can make the levels like as you play through them. It's basically LittleBigPlanet except a little more sedated.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for it. It looks really neat, and it's weird though because it's not strictly 8-bit art. It almost looks like 8-bit art as like cutouts with like casting shadows on the background and stuff.
Yeah, not like perfect, but yeah, it's, I am excited to play around with it. I'm not the type to build levels and go into a lot of work with that stuff, but
Yeah,
I'll play other
neither.
people's.
But other people will.
Oh yeah, and Splatoon.
Splatoon.
That was that weird discussion they're having. Like, what if you were a human, but you could also turn into a squid?
It definitely sounded like a stoner conversation.
It
Like,
did.
yeah, we were sitting around one day discussing what would it be like? You could probably move through ink if you were a squid, but humans could run. And it's like, why were you having this conversation? Like, what spurred this conversation?
Special brownies.
Yeah.
Special brownie party.
Yeah, I
Wait.
missed the trailer for that. When I look up, I'm like, why is there ink all over the place?
Yeah.
And what is going on?
Yeah, it's this. I know Miyamoto was kind of proud of that one. We'll get to this in a little bit, but yeah, I got to see an event with Miyamoto, and he was talking about that game and just that it's a bunch of newer staff, younger staff on his team that just like pitched this. He's like, "All right, run with it."
Student
And,
project.
yeah, so that's
It's
why
an intern program.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't feel totally like a Nintendo. Well, it feels like a Nintendo game, but not in the genre they would normally do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they showed off Palutena and Star Fox.
Barely. All right. So yeah, I was shocked that it only leaked like an hour before the thing. But yeah, on Sunday night I got to see Star Fox. That was this private event Nintendo hosted, and it was Star Fox Wii U. It won't be playable at E3 even. It was only at this
But you
event.
played it there.
I did play it there. It was really early, and I think that's why they didn't want people to play it. So this is a tough concept for people to get with it. I'm wondering how people are reacting to it. But like Star Fox, it looks like Star Fox regular on the TV, but you point to shoot where you shoot. Like instead of just blasting out in front of you, you point with the gamepad via motion controls, and you're holding up the gamepad eye level. And so you're like looking between the TV and the gamepad and then moving around to shoot. It gets a little easier with the lock-on. Like you could do lock-on missiles and just paint your targets so you don't have to be as accurate. But it was tough at first. After 10 minutes, I got used to it. But when I played it, it didn't feel like it needed to be there. And
I feel I have a hard time imagining that's not going to eventually change.
Yeah, I think what'll happen is they'll be like when they showed Kid Icarus Uprising. People were also the first time they showed off that Kid Icarus game. People thought these controls suck. Like they need to make it old, just make it the old controls. And Nintendo really held strong to their thing. Like, no, we're not changing it. We like these controls, but they did improve it to the point that it was good, but I still would have rather played it with just traditional controls. So I think that's also why they had us had this very limited playable event just to see like outsider reactions to it. And I think it'll be refined a bit, but as it was then, like it was fun. It was fun, and it was very Star Fox 64. Like the characters were saying the dumb crap they always say.
With their dumb flappy heads.
Yeah, flappy heads, not HD heads. Like though I think that.
Well, I
might
mean,
have been
technically HD.
it was HD, but like not finely detailed. But I think that could have just been like placeholder shots.
Yeah, I'm
also.
sure it's probably a little ways out yet.
But there were lines like "I can't lose," like Wolf says that when he dies, and Slippy was saying "Help me, Fox." Like it felt like a Fox. Also that there was a new helicopter unit and that you can transform from an R-wing into a Landmaster. But Yeah, you guys can't see much of it because Nintendo so far has only given us one image of the game, which
it's awful. Image.
It is a blurry off-screen shot of Miyamoto playing it, and that's all we have. Yeah.
There's more Miyamoto than there is Star Fox in that picture.
That shows that shows how non-committal they are to the game. Like, I bet they think that like its looks are going to change a lot too. Like, it's just still at a very early level.
Hopefully, because it doesn't look great.
Nope.
I mean, we know the Wii U can do better. Mario Kart proved that it can do much better. So
yeah,
well,
and Zelda footage.
I definitely think this is just a move for like, see, we are working
We
on all
have
things
stuff.
you guys
Star
want,
Fox.
even if
That was
this
all of
one
EA.
is
Yeah.
hardly even a game at this point.
It was. This has been a very conceptual E3 in general
Yeah.
so far.
There are games coming,
yeah.
and you'll see more next year.
That's the theme of this E3, conceptual prototype.
Yep, including Nintendo. They had a bunch of conceptual prototypes. They were lousy with conceptual prototypes.
Yep.
So overall, what do you guys think of Nintendo?
Good.
I like Yarn Yoshi.
Yeah.
I like
So
Yarn
that just
Yoshi's
made the whole
Woolly
World.
World.
Woolly's World.
And the
Woolly World.
and the Zelda had a lot of wow factor to it too. The Zelda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Zelda's
yeah.
really nice.
They didn't show off a lot, but what they did show off, I mean, they showed off miles of world.
Yeah.
One thing I think I really appreciated about their conference too was just their like tongue-in-cheek humor about themselves. You know,
Yeah.
they're very self-aware, and so I thought that was very, very good for them.
That was
That
pretty
was
cute.
great, yeah. And like their E3 is just getting started with like, well, for all of us it is, but like the Smash Brothers tournament that's happening across the street, like that we're gonna have to wade through so many dudes to get into that tournament. now.
No doubt.
It is gonna be so crowded, like
Yep.
just to get in there. But I'm looking forward to Cooper and I are going to have our own Smash Brothers tournament just between each other.
That's right.
In a little bit. So
And
I'm
we're going to
looking
do our
forward to that.
best to steal some NFC figures. I can
Please
guarantee.
do.
I
Please swipe
guarantee.
some.
We're going to swipe all of them.
Grabbing them all.
I brought a diamond ring with me. I'm just going to cut through the class and just punch it out.
It's a good call.
You just
Brilliant.
distract Nintendo, like, oh hey, what was this game, Fantasy Life? I'd like to check that out.
And they'll be like, oh, somebody wants to see Fantasy Life. And every Nintendo person runs over and they're like, do you want to see Toad Game next? And I'll be like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, you want to see Splats, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Splatoon.
No Dragon Quest VII. Damn it.
You should not be surprised
When
by that.
I'm gonna keep whining to Nintendo reps every time I see them until they publish Dragon Quest
Did
VII.
you know I wanted Dragon Quest 7?
Thanks.
Thanks. Signed, Henry. So, yeah. That's the press conferences. A lot of 2015 releases.
Oh boy.
2015 is going to be the
Not-
best year
It's
ever.
gonna be great.
Not so many 2014 releases.
We got some.
A couple,
There
2,
is.
3.
2014 is an okay year.
I mean, 2013 is still going to be amazing, but or 2014, but
That means there's stuff to look forward to.
there certainly is, and there's stuff to read about and listen to us talk about on RadioRadar and GamesRadar.
We will run that into the ground.
Segue, just segued that. So we're gonna let you go. We're gonna go do some E3 but be sure to check out GamesRadar. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. And we will return with a regularly scheduled Radio Radar at the end of the week. So, see you later.